Former Obama drug czar says marijuana is not medicine and that Big Cannabis is behind federal rescheduling decision. The former U.S. drug czar under President Barack Obama expressed skepticism of marijuana's medical value and the Biden administration's move to federally reschedule cannabis in a new interview warning of ominous industry influence over politicians in the country's medical review process. It's not medicine, said former director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy, Gil Kowalski, I'm thinking maybe Polish, speaking on the podcast of former Representative Mary Bono, R. California. This is all Big Cannabis, he added. This isn't people my age that are just old hippies that just want to open up a pot shop somewhere. This is big business like big tobacco. Absolutely. Carol Kowalski, also a former commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection and a police chief in Seattle and other cities, was responding to a question from Bono about the opioid industry. Oh, conflation. Specifically, the drug maker Purdue Pharma and its role in the nation's ongoing opioid overdose crisis. What you and I observed, I think, with pretty good front row seats, was the Purdue business dealings and the Purdue ethos, the way Purdue decided to do business, which made this challenge and this problem so difficult, Bono said. Do you think we could see something like another Purdue Pharma business model again? Well, in a way, I think we're seeing a bit of that now with the marijuana industry and the fact that they want to reschedule. Kara Kowalski replied, and it looks like that could certainly happen. He seemed to accuse Big Cannabis of being behind the Department of Health and Human Services finding that cannabis has accepted medical value and should be placed on Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substance Act, noting that an earlier HHS review of marijuana scheduling status denied its medical efficacy. Health and Human Services, although 3 years earlier, decided not to reschedule it because there was no evidence of its health, he said. Now they turned around 3 years later and want to reschedule, and it just looks like the Department of Justice will go along with it. Bono herself offered that street-level dealers is no longer just some hippie. It is now a member of a cartel and part of organized crime, the former congresswoman said. And the whole business, if people truly knew what was behind it, they would be shocked. Later in the podcast, when Bono asked about the politics of marijuana policy, Kowalski again referenced the industry's political influence. I mean, you had the former Speaker of the House, John Boehner, supporting the issue of marijuana, and there was a lot of money, he said. I mean, it's just like watching big tobacco all over again on that. In his role as chief of police in Seattle, this gentleman opposed a 2023 ballot initiative that instructed the Seattle Police Department to consider marijuana possession its lowest enforcement priority. And in 2019, following his exit from government, he told lawmakers in Mexico, who at the time were considering an end to prohibition in that country, that they would need robust regulations in place. Yet he also acknowledged that state-level legalization in the U.S. had reduced the appetite for drugs that are trafficked illegally across the border. The latest CBP data shows that marijuana intercepted at the southern border recently fell to record lows. At the time, the comments were seen as noteworthy given that he had previously said the word legalization was not in his vocabulary nor in Obama's. His latest comments come amid an announcement from the Biden administration that the federal government intends to reschedule marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. The action is being largely praised as a historic step in the right direction, with the federal government recognizing for the first time in 50 years that cannabis has accepted medical value and a lower abuse potential than other Schedule 1 drugs, such as heroin. On the other hand, activists have emphasized that rescheduling does not federally legalize marijuana or provide corrective relief to people who've been criminalized over it. So I'm going to wrap this up in the interest of time, and I will just say that what I appreciated about this was, let's burst some longstanding notions about the Obama administration being a liberal, left of center, or progressive administration. This gentleman who was appointed as the drug czar was not in any way, not only not forward thinking, but not aligned with the science at the time when he had that position. And so seeing this guy take a post-service victory lap on a podcast from a Republican in Southern California who earned her seat because her husband died is unfortunately news to report today. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News. I'd like to know what the rest of you think.
My favorite part of that whole story was that you got to say the word boner in a story.
Oh, boy.
This dude is still mad at the Cole memo.
I mean, the Cole memo was trash. It didn't do anything. It had no teeth.
You are right in alignment with this guy.
I'm 100%. I'm 100% in alignment with this guy, and this guy is basically
it opened up the whole industry.
Let me tell you something.
Memo.
For anyone,
not medicine, 100%. Jason, you saying weed ain't medicine?
No, that's not what I'm saying. You're putting words in my mouth.
So you're 100% in alignment with him. That's what he's saying.
No, I'm in alignment with what he's saying as far as like the fact that the cannabis industry is accepting this Schedule 3 is giving it straight to Big Pharma. That's what he's really saying.
No, Jason, that is incredibly selective. I invite you to reread the article before the foot in your mouth goes all the way up to the ankle.
That's what I got out of it, because I'm looking for the bottom line in all this, and that's basically what the bottom line is.
The bottom line is he's about 40 years behind on science.
He may be 40 years behind on science, but he's right on the main policy.